He doesn't.
All right.
Don't be a dumbass.
Yes, don't be a dumbass. Now, I'm going to say if being a dumbass were a felony, I'd have gotten 3 life sentences between the ages of 18 and 25. So,
Yeah.
We all probably would.
yep. we are apparently we fell off of we froze up and we are frozen on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. And I'm trying to get everything back up again. Give me a second.
Yeah, so somebody messaged me, and they when John froze up, or they froze up when John was speaking about getting shot at the windshield.
Let me see here. Destinations. All right, and let me make sure that I think we all should be live again now. Just got a couple minutes more with Tom Knighton here. Tom, I want to ask you real quick, anything coming up that you can kind of pull the curtain back, let us know what's going on, and anything coming up on Bearing Arms from Tom?
Oh, yeah, I got a fun one tomorrow. I've got a broke later part of today. A school went on lockdown over what they referred to as AR-15 magazine bag. They just found a bag. There was no ammunition in it. There were no magazines in it. It was just an empty bag. And they locked down schools and, searched kids as they left. And they made a big to-do because everyone wets their pants at anything that looks like it might have something to do with the firearm industry. I've also got an editorial out of
What's an AR-15 bag look like? Describe that to us.
That's an excellent question that I will be discussing because damned if I know. But they said it was an empty bag. There was no ammunition. There was no magazines. And I'm like, then it was just a bag. Even if it was one designed to hold magazines. Because I did a search of that particular string. And I got all kinds of different things from magazine pouches to bags for like taking just basically camouflage duffel bags for throwing magazines in to take them to the range. So, it's like, this isn't real descriptive, but the fact remains that it was still no magazine, no ammunition, nothing at all to suggest a threat, except it was something that was apparently someone identified as adjacent to the firearm industry. In fact, the kid who brought it to school came forward and said, yeah, that's mine. What? No, it wasn't a threat or anything like that. It's one of these cases of
a logoed lunch
so
bag.
paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is it
possible? Yeah.
Is it possible it was?
There's no pictures of it available yet.
Of course, shocking, right?
Yeah.
Does it look like sort of a tactical bag that somebody would carry with a place for a patch and all those little, binding things on it and side pockets? Right.
I just pulled it up and it looks like what Amanda said. It looks like a lunch bag, but inside there's little spots for our magazine. But I don't know if that's. I don't know. It's a bunch of stuff, like you said, that pulls up.
Yeah, and it's like, even if it is something like that, that's not the only thing you can be used for. Even though it's designed for that, kid can grab his bag from his dad for whatever, put whatever in it, not even think about it like that. And it's just,
right.
I get that you've got to be cautious in this day and age, but folks, schools need to exercise a little, common sense.
That's
ultimately it's just a bag.
Very rare in schools these days.
It's not so.
It qualifies as a superpower.
I'm going to put this.
Alf's got a good one.
I'm going to put this comment up as well without any comment. I'm just going to leave that up there for a few seconds because, ouch.
Ooh. Ooh, that's mean. Another one I've got for tomorrow is an editorial out of Maine. Yeah, I'm trying to move past that one. But an editorial out of Maine that refers to Angus King's Go Safe Act as a modest proposal.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Okay.
That,
Right.
you know,
So
like,
this-
really?
really?
Right. It's not a magazine ban because we're not banning magazines. We're banning guns that have magazines.
Yeah, and we're not telling you what you can and can't have. We're just going to restrict what they can make. And if you already have one of those, you can't sell it or buy it from another person or anything like that. But yeah, totally not an assault weapon ban at all.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think it was who was it who did
Clarence
a modest
Thomas
proposal and it was like eating kids back in the day?
Clarence Thomas is going to reach into the back seat and he's going to slap the silly out of some of these people when he says, "Don't make me stop this car." That's where we're going.
Right?
A modest proposal, Jonathan Swift.
Yes.
Right.
And when I saw a modest proposal, that's exactly where my head went.
All right, Tom, we are plumb out of time. I've kept you a lot longer than I told you I would, but if you would please plug, where can people get your stuff and anything else you want to plug today?
Best place to get me for Second Amendment stuff is, obviously Bearing Arms. For some non-Second Amendment stuff, you can find me at tomknighton.substack.com. It's called Tilting at Windmills. So come check that out.
And I will say you got to check that out simply because the stupidity in the firearms world isn't limited to the firearms world. It's also a lot in higher education and a lot of other places Tom writes about on his Substack. So please do go check that out. We are going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got our news segment. We'll get to that right after we hear from the Complete Combatant right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
All right, we are back. It is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast. And let's see here. No disclaimers for news, but and also if you're expecting us to be out of here in 1 hour, I'm not getting news and DGUs and show wrap done in 4 minutes. So sorry, you're going to have to hang out longer. And to my staff, sorry I'm keeping you longer, but it's the last one for at least a while. So Charlie, you've got our first story. You want to talk about this one, man?
Yes, this is a prohibition on young adults purchasing firearms from FFLs is ruled unconstitutional. This is a John Crump story from AmmoLand. A federal district court judge from the Northern District of West Virginia ruled that banning 18 to 20-year-olds from buying handguns from federal firearms licensees is unconstitutional. The case, Brown versus the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, was filed in September of 2022 by two West Virginia citizens named Stephen Brown and Benjamin Weekly, the Second Amendment Foundation, and the West Virginia Citizens Defense League. Both men are under 21 years old and want to buy handguns and handgun ammunition from FFLs. The current law prevents anyone from under the age of 21 from buying handguns from FFLs. Although there is no federal law blocking 18 to 20-year-olds from buying handguns, current regulations stop anyone under 21 from going through the National Instant Check background system for a handgun. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, John, you're up in show notes with a comment. What you got, man?
Yeah, the Gun Control Act of '68 does say that an FFL cannot sell a handgun to those who are under 21. So yeah, that would be a law. However, there is nothing in the law that says that those under 21 can't possess a handgun, nor does it say they can't buy them privately. And I know there was a very similar case in Virginia where I think the guy brought it on his own and actually won. And there have also been similar cases in Texas. So this is being hit. You're eligible to vote? You should be eligible to purchase a handgun or a long gun, depending on the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've covered this a lot of times here. You at the age of 18, you can join the military, fight, and possibly die for your country. You can enter contracts. You can do a lot of other things, including messing up your life by getting married to the wrong person. Why can't you buy a firearm and protect that life?
Okay, so let's talk Bruin history, text, and tradition. 1791. In 1791, little Johnny had a gun to go out to shoot something to bring it home to feed his family. So there is not anything about history, text, and tradition that says that 21 is the magic number or 18 is the magic number. The United States is probably not ready to peel back from something less than 18, but I firmly believe that what they're going to do is they're going to pull this back to states' rights. And they will pull it back to where each state draws the line for majority. Where are you deemed an adult? In Ohio, it's 18. In Texas, it's 17. I think that's where that's going to be where this ends up. And then from there, it's going to be your parents' decision as to whether or not they allow you at 12 or 14 years old to go buy a gun.
To continue on with what Amanda just said about 1791, when they enacted the Militia Act of 1791, 1792, the bottom age was 17.
Okay. There you go. So it's just gonna be pretty darned interesting to see where that is. I know when Ohio drew their unofficial militia, it's 17 to 67, because once you reach 67, you're more than decrepit and incapable.
Well, maybe.
Wait.
Closer to that than.
No, I know. I'm creeping up to that number. I'm like, what? But
I'm less than half a year away.
oh, so I just look at what your state says for official and unofficial militia, but mine is 17 to 67. I'm like, ouch.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm much closer to 67 than I am 17. So, anyway, next story. Let me get into this one here, and this good segue because this is an Ohio story. An Ohio court has shot down Columbus's efforts to save lives, siding with gun rights advocates to rule the city can't require firearms owners to lock their guns up to prevent children from accessing them. Ohio's 5th District Court of Appeals dismissed the city's request to overturn a Delaware County judge's decision, which granted the conservative think tank, the Buckeye Institute, a preliminary injunction against the municipality's ordinance. In basic English, this means the judge denied lifting a freeze on the law and sided with gun rights advocates who said Columbus can't make their own safety regulations. This is exasperating for the Columbus city attorney Zach Klein. In January, a small child survived after shooting a gun inside his home in Columbus. He found the gun between two couch cushions. Klein charged the father under the new safe storage law. That is such a tragic and preventable situation, but there needs to be accountability for individuals who leave their guns in a couch cushion, Klein told WEWS/OCJ. The city requires gun owners to lock up their guns around children when they aren't using them and ban magazines that can hold 30 rounds or more of ammunition. We've been trying to pass some common sense gun laws to get guns out of the hands of violent individuals, the attorney added. I'm going to say this to Mr. Klein. Do you think if this guy wasn't going to comply no matter what the law was? I'm thinking he was wearing a lot of blue or a lot of red when he went out in public, and I don't think he's going to give a rat's about your laws. He's going to do what the heck he likes. So, again, if being a dumb ass was a felony, this guy would have gotten a lot of them as well. You can't. There's just some things. If you're gonna be dumb, it's gonna hurt, and this one hurt, and that's part of life. Charlie, what do you think?
The other,
oh, Amanda, go.
Let me tackle one piece of this, and then I'll toss it to everybody else. In 2004, when Ohio passed their concealed carry, they had a patchwork of laws and regulations all over the state, and they passed preemption. So it says that no municipalities shall pass something that's more stringent than the overall state. And in that preemption, they also said that that if someone decides to try to do this, they have to pay the legal fees for both sides when they lose. And so it is cost. Cleveland's done it about 3 times, maybe 4 times. It's cost them somewhere north of $4 million. Cincinnati tried it, and now this is Columbus's second go round. So no matter what the rest of this says, preemption should have shut this down with the first judge, but we had an activist judge, and that's why it had to go to the next level of court.
I'll get to you in a second, Charlie. John, you've got a comment that goes right into that. Oh, and John, you're muted.
I am muted. Sorry. I didn't want to cough on air. I know Columbus has been fighting state preemption for a very long time, but as a non-Ohioan, I'm actually surprised that you're not seeing more coming out of Cleveland, but from what Amanda said, it looks like they have been active along with Cincinnati, like the Sea City, so to speak.
And losing. Yeah.
All right, Charlie.
So to me, this sounds a little bit like the Florida story as far as people being responsible on their property or in their homes. And not all gun owners are created equally. So some people are more responsible and some people are less responsible. There can be all the laws for storage and requirements for, the plastic cases with padlocks aren't okay. You've got to get a stack-on safe, and stack-on safes aren't safe. So you got to get you've got to get a big Liberty safe or whatever. There's no way to enforce these laws unless you go into people's homes and check and see what they have. So it's very irresponsible for this guy to have done this, to left the gun in between the couch, but it was in his house. So what are you going to do about this? How are they going to know unless they go in people's houses and check and make sure you're keeping all your firearms locked and secured as far as the state's concerned?
Yeah, and like I said, you can outlaw being a dumb jerk all you want. People are going to be dumb jerks. I've been a dumb jerk in the past. I'll freely admit I've done things I am absolutely not proud of. Not going over what they were on the air, but I've done things that if they were to come to light, I would be totally embarrassed about. So.
Yeah, save that for the post show, Paul.
Yeah.
Going on from what Charlie said is most states will have a general negligence law. You don't need a specific law, saying that you have to lock up the gun. I mean, was this parent negligent? Yes. Can you be prosecuted for being negligent? Yes. Do we need a special law that says that if you leave a gun, especially if you leave a gun and it's unlocked, that you're negligent? Not necessarily.
No.
You were just negligent to begin with.
No, because now you're double secret negligent because it was a gun,
Exactly.
not a car or a knife or a machete or a flamethrower or, gasoline and a lighter,
You left your car
There
keys
was-
on the counter.
It's ultimately a responsibility to be a responsible gun owner. I mean, wake up, right? If you have kids in the house, lock it up. I mean, come on, right?
Or a
That's what it
responsible
comes down
adult. You
to.
don't give the 6-year-old the keys to the car.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't leave your drugs hanging out. You make sure. I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about, your medication.
Sure you are.
Back that
Leave your weed everywhere.
up. No, wait.
Well, does Massachusetts
Prescription
have
medication.
does Massachusetts have recreational use now? I mean, yeah.
Yes, we do.
We have, yes, but federally, it's a whole different ballgame.
All right.
With
There was a kid. Oh my God, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, I think it was. There was a 7-year-old kid in Dorchester, which is a crappy part of Boston, that was found a gun and shot himself. And everyone was in, we need more gun laws. Parents should be responsible and all this sort of stuff. And part of me is like, I'm going to say that this person didn't have the gun legally. So they're not going to keep it locked and secured legally because they don't have it legally. So it's kind of on the parents for being responsible.
Right, but
Once
it's
you break
also
one law, how many more laws are you talking about?
Right.
So,
But
sorry, Carrie Ann.
It also comes. No, it's all right. It just Charlie just made me think of something too, because the Massachusetts was supposed to do PSAs, public service announcements, in 2014, and they never did nothing. And honestly, this is not just about gun ownership; it's about everybody knowing the rules. So if we all knew the rules, meaning if you have a gun in the house, it's got to be locked up. If you did find a gun, this is what you do. You stop, don't touch, run away, tell an adult, point it in a safe direction, keep your finger off the trigger. I mean, all these rules and all these regulations, all these. If we just taught that in general to society, to our communities, we would have safer communities altogether.
But that would require actual common sense. It would require accepting that the gun is not the enemy. That would require accepting that people have a right to own a gun and teaching them the best practice for using that firearm and for storing that firearm. And they're not about that. They're just about making it evil.
Right. And they have a privilege to drive a car, but yet they still text and drive. Right. It just makes no sense to me. So
All right. I want to get a couple comments in. We'll get to our next story. Kevin Sona says, laws only stop reasonable people. And Gun Website says, people teach kids not to do dangerous things, but guns are special, and teaching how to safely behave around a gun is criminally withheld from most public education in an attempt to create fear of guns. Pete, you nailed it. That's exactly, he said it more succinctly than I could. That's perfect.
Oh,
Shame on them.
that's a preach it moment. Yes, exactly.
Yep. I mean, I went to the schools. I tried to do the refuse to be a victim, and as soon as I said NRA, not refuse, Eddie the Eagle, that was it. Conversation over.
Yeah.
Those are nasty letters.
Nasty.
All right, let's get to our final story here. New Mexico's governor is never-ending emergency on guns. This is a Cam Edwards story off Bearing Arms. when Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham declared a public health emergency due to gun violence back in September, she made a lot of noise about the order being temporary. In fact, that was one of the main arguments deployed in her attempt to keep her ban on concealed carry in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County in place. Grisham's attorney failed to convince a U.S. District Court judge that a total ban on lawful carrying comported with the Constitution, even temporarily, but the judge did allow for the governor's revised order prohibiting concealed carry in parks and playgrounds in the city and county to be enforced while the lawsuit against her order continues. The litigation is still ongoing, and as it turns out, so is the governor's temporary declaration. After renewing her public health order in October and November, the governor has once again declared the carry ban will remain in effect at least through the end of the year. There's nothing so permanent as a temporary tax, or in this case, a temporary health emergency. This is forever and ever, amen, unless the courts do something to reverse it.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
All right.
So I don't think any of us have a lot to say about this because we just think she's wrong. Wrong. Well,
the only thing I'd have to say is what has happened. I don't think New Mexico has been Californicated. I think it's just indigenous wackos. No offense.
Fornicated.
To good New Mexicans.
I have never heard Californicated, but I love it.
Isn't that a song?
Californication by the Chili Peppers, yeah.
Yes.
Californication.
Right, it's got to be the heat, right? Like, this is what makes these people crazy?
I thought it was
green
seawater.
There's no seas over there, Amanda.
What?
That was my explanation for California, but New Mexico doesn't touch the ocean.
Yeah,
Mexico, it's the heat.
It's the
California.
All the nuclear testing that happened there in the 50s. The effects are starting to come around now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the Roswell effect, right?
Right.
I have a story about that, but we'll save that for later.
All right.
This is the last show. There is no later.
Okay.
Oh, it's not the last show. It's
Tell the
on
story.
hold.
Have you ever seen how an F-111 can dump fuel and then you fire the afterburner and light it? Do you know what I'm talking about? An F-111 fighter bomber has a way to dump fuel. They can light the afterburner, and then you have a 200-foot flame.
Nice.
Well, my brother-in-law may or may not, when he was flying an EF-111 at low level over New Mexico in training, done that a few times. Where
was that
near Roswell, whatever,
Is there a video of this somewhere that we can see?
Yeah, you can go to YouTube. They do it all the time in Australia, on Australia Day, whatever, in Sydney. You can see that just flame coming out of the back of an F-111.
That would also explain why Australia has some of the rules and regulations they have down there.
Yeah.
You get too close to the crowd, light that thing off, and cook some brains. Yeah. Let's see here. Ha! Okay. Let me get. There's a train here I gotta follow. I gotta find the beginning of it. Let me start here. Pete over at Guns and Website says we have to type within 250 characters in these comments, so YouTube forces brevity. And then, where is it? Jesus Wins Bird of Michigan says, save space, omit spaces between words. And he also says, out of control, y'all need to simmer. So, okay.
M.A.
Sima.
I don't think these are more than 250 characters. They can put his face in there.
And gun websites. I got to go after the show. I got to go look at this. Dump and Burn F111, and he gives the YouTube address. So
Okay.
I'll have to go check that out if we go dark.
Thanks, G-Webs.
All right. What we're gonna do now? We're gonna go ahead and go to our. I'm gonna make this our final break. We're gonna go do GGUs when we come back, and we will start the process of shutting the show down. We're at 8:18 at a show that I was hoping would end somewhere between 8:30 and 9. We're still gonna see if we can get that so we can wrap up by 9 p.m. Central Time, because I got to get to work tonight. Folks, we're going to step aside to our final break right now. When we come back, we'll have DGUs. Hang on right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
All right, we are back. We are getting so many comments in. I've tried getting a few in while we're on break, just putting them up on the screen. But this is our defensive gun use segment, as I have 685 times before this. I'll do it number 686 now. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Our first DGU is up out of Hollywood Hills, California. $1.7 million mansion with a home worth that much. Many would think security would not be left up to the homeowner. However, Beatrice D'Alba, 59, is a hairstylist who has worked in Hollywood with the Hollywood elite on movies such as National Treasure, The Hunger Games, and Frida. In fact, she won an Oscar and a BAFTA award for her work with Selma Hayek on Frida. As a man tried to break into her home, she retrieved a weapon after repeatedly telling him to leave. She was claiming to fear for her life, and as he attempted to force his way into the home, she shot him. Miss D'Alba's husband called the police to report the shooting in their three-bedroom home. Police found the man suffering from a gunshot wound, but conscious and breathing. He was transported to a hospital. Miss D'Alba was detained by police and released. She had been the victim of a home invasion attempt in the past. The shooting comes as law enforcement community has warned about the new controversial zero bail policy, which went into effect earlier this month. A person's bail amount was previously based on the severity of the allegations against them, but critics argued that benefited those who could pay. Officially known as the pre-arraignment release protocols, the zero bail, doggone it, I was doing so good. The zero bail policy has been slammed by cops who believe it will undermine crime fighting. Zero bail was first introduced to combat overcrowding in the city's jails during the pandemic, but expired last summer. Not a whole lot to go on this one, but John, you're working on a comment in show notes. What you got, man?
Well, we talked about the cost of our house being 1.7 million. In California, depending on the neighborhood, it doesn't buy a house like it used to. Now it could just be your average suburban ranch house.
Oh yeah, even I was just thinking it says a 3-bedroom house, and yeah, 3-bedroom house, 1.7 million. You only need to get in Sioux Falls. You only need to get up to a 6 or 7-bedroom house, and you're approaching a million. So 1.7, California, Hollywood Hills. Yeah,
10 bedrooms in Sioux Falls for sure.
yeah. But yeah, it's I'm the only I got on this one. You shouldn't have to retrieve at any point. You shouldn't have to retrieve a firearm. Even in California, even in Hollywood Hills, California, the Heller decision says you got the right to carry inside your house. Carry, please. Let's see here. Charlie, you got something?
Yeah, I mean this is good news from California. It doesn't say whether or not she had a license to possess the firearm, but let's hope that she did, so that she could have the gun lawfully and stuff. But good on her for she hit her target. She had a gun. Could have had it a little closer, but that's all right.
Hey Charlie, in free America, we don't have to have a license to own a firearm. I'm just going to
Just rub
say
it
no
in.
FOID card, no FID card, none of
Right.
that
Yeah.
stuff. And then
Wow.
when you add constitutional carry to it, you don't even have to have one to take it for a walk.
Well, this is California.
I got to get this one in. Pete over at Gun Website. So if I get a big enough truck and drag it this house over to California, it'll be worth at least $1 million. Well, yeah, and I got to tell you, man, if you need advice on getting a truck, I know a few people. Just saying. So, there are trucks that'll get it there. It might cost you more than it would.
You need some land to put it on, though.
Yeah, and moving the house is not. I know people that'll get it there, but they don't do it for free. Charlie, this next one, you got your name on it. It's a little closer to you.
All right. So from the West Coast to the East Coast, this is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A 28-year-old robber entered the Happy Day food market, partially masked and wearing gloves, armed with a handgun. One of the employees was also armed and pulled his, he immediately went behind the counter and started taking money from the cash to fill his pockets. One of the employees, also armed, pulled his gun out while the robber was busy stuffing his pockets and shot him several times. There were other employees as well as at least one customer who was in the store at the time, and there were no injuries reported. The criminal was found by the police behind the counter with no signs of life. The local Fox reporter talked to other employees who said the employee that had gotten his gun license received training in how to shoot after a previous robbery of the store. The two other employees and customers were taken to police headquarters to be interviewed. Both guns involved were recovered by the police. Police say the shooting appears to be self-defense.
All right. I'm going to jump in first on this one. A couple months ago, we had a DGU. This one, I want to say, was down in the Tennessee area, maybe near Mogadishu on the Mississippi. But the guy starts to rob a gas station. He was partially masked as well. He had women's underwear over his face. I'm just wondering if partially masked, if this was the same kind of bad guy here, partially masked. He just put some ladies' undergarments and kind of went and did his thing.
Do you look through the leg holes? What? Oh, what? I don't get that. I am way too old.
Well, let's hope they were a fresh pair.
Way too old.
Yeah.
Carrie Ann's like, I'm out.
I got nothing.
Sorry, my daughter came in the room.
Good timing.
John,
timing.
you're in show notes. Do you want to add to this mess?
Yeah, and this is no pun intended, of course, but it was a happy day indeed as the good guys won
Yes.
at the
Yes.
Happy Day Food Market.
Exactly.
You know, and it couldn't have been a Piggly Wiggly or a Kroger or anything like
A
that.
Wawa.
Yeah, a Wawa.
Wawa.
You know the
A
Wawa
Wawa.
now serves
Wawa.
the Wawa. The Wawa now serves pizza.
Okay. All right.
Be Big Yang.
Well,
Say.
let's do this.
Sorry.
While we still got some people watching us live, we're going to go ahead and move on to the final segment of the show here. Normally, I would ask Rob what's been going on over at Slowfax. Rob could not be here tonight, and so I'm going to encourage everybody, do go check out his blog, slowfax.wordpress.com, and just about anywhere else that picks up Second Amendment news stories, they'll grab Rob's stuff from time to time. But, John, what's been going on over at your Only Guns and Money blog?
Well, let me start with the NRA news and go from there. First, all 4 petition candidates, Phil Journey, Rocky Marshall, Jeff Knox, and Dennis Fusura, will be on the ballot for 2024. Next, the trial in New York starts on January 8th, with jury selection beginning January 2nd. And I've got to say, I'm still bewildered why the NRA would want a jury trial in the liberal stronghold of Manhattan. Finally, Rocky Marshall provided me with an updated analysis excuse me, of the NRA's finances, and they're not good. Revenue continues down, and expenses, especially those for legal expenses, are increasing. Moving on, Rim Arms is consolidating all Remington production in their state-of-art plant in LaGrange, Georgia. The Ilion plant is just too old, and New York politics are too toxic to remain there. Just one second. Sorry about that. Finally, a mob attacked a 14-year-old student in a Raleigh, North Carolina high school. The victim fought back and is now charged with murder. One of the attackers was killed. Another attacker is in the hospital. He had somehow, somewhere, this 14-year-old obtained a knife. Andrew Branca has analyzed the case and concluded it was clearly self-defense. I hope the victim has a good lawyer with the knowledge of self-defense law. And though the school was, quote, an academic magnet, this school had the highest level of violence in the school district. That and a whole lot more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
All right. And Amanda, is there anything you have coming out or has come out or that you just flat want to promote that you're doing?
So, no, just tune in to Eye on the Target Radio on Sunday nights from 5 to 7 p.m. And I'm there. That's it.
All right.
Live a boring life.
No.
Yeah, right.
No. Carrie Ann, Sister in Arms, a firearm story. What's been going on there? Anything else you want to promote?
We did our first season, so we ended our first season. We're starting our second, so I'm very excited about that. We have had some amazing guests join us, and we are not done. So check us out on YouTube. So Sisters in Arms, a firearm story. Also, if you are living in Massachusetts, you might want to go to Gun Owners Action League and check out their website as well, and check out the bill that is going on here in Massachusetts, because we need all the help we can get. So, thank you.
All right. Charlie, writing shotgun with Charlie, writing shotgun with Charlie, Charlie's Gungrams, whatever you want to plug, bud, here's your chance.
All right. So the Last Arm Lifestyle magazine came out a couple weeks ago, and I released the video interview with Sarah Joy Albrecht from Hold My Gun. So that's on the Riding Shotgun YouTube channel. Tomorrow, I have episode 186 dropping. Jim Irvine from Faster Saves Lives is my passenger on the show tomorrow. And on Wednesday, December 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Matt Mallory and I are going to be talking with Yehuda Reamer about his new book, Spot Gilly. And we have a lot of friends that are up for Gundy Awards. So if you haven't registered for that, please scroll through there and support a lot of our friends. I got myself in a heap of trouble by posting one of the people that is up for an award, and then another person got mad because they're up for an award, and I didn't post something about them. And then legit, all of a sudden, Yehuda writes in, he says, "And the Pew Pew Jew has entered the room." So I'm like, oh, here we go. So that's what I've got going on.
All right. Brent Amsden says, amazing guests and Charlie. So,
And Charlie. There we go. Again,
And Charlie.
how many times do I have to say this? These are my friends.
yes, absolutely.
Yes, we are.
All right, that brings it to me, and I want to say, I honestly don't think this is the end. I can never say absolutely for certain, but while we are live on the air and still recording for release on podcast, I want to say I honestly don't believe this is the end. Yes, I'm going on break for a while. However, I do have a lot of people at this point. I was thinking about this earlier today. I got to thank some people. First is somebody who I don't know if he's watching now or not. He could be. We still interact from time to time. Mark Vanderberg, who ran the now defunct Gun Rights Radio Network, and Chaz Murray, who ran the Road Gunner podcast. Two of the people who were influential in getting me into podcasting before live video was ever even an option. They got me into podcasting. And some of the early people that helped me out, specifically, and I gotta make out a special thanks here to Kathy Jackson, who was gracious enough not only to become almost a weekly guest, almost a co-host on the show. She came on every week for a very long time and took a guy who was an absolute newbie into handgun and self-defense world. When I started what would become the Polite Society podcast, what was then the Politics and Guns podcast, I knew rifles. I knew shotguns some, but I knew rifles, and that was about all I knew. I knew hunting, and I believed in Second Amendment rights. Kathy took me by the hand and taught me about self-defense. Long before she ever came up to Sioux Falls and taught a cornered cat class that I was a part of, she came on the show a lot of times and taught me, and taught it through vicariously by teaching a lot of listeners about self-defense at the same time. Everybody who's come on the show, I need to thank them, but they're quite literally at 686 shows. There have been, I'm going to be guessing, north of 800 guests, because in the first shows, it was all audio. We didn't care how long it went. A 3-hour show, no big deal. No kidding. So we had 2-3 guests on per show. No big deal. That was just the way we did it. I come from being a truck driver, and I was hoping for a 3-hour podcast because that would eat up a lot of my drive time. Innumerable guests that have been on the show. I want to thank everybody who's appeared on the show. I want to thank the Firearms Policy Coalition, who came on board several years ago. This little tiny podcast that was growing, and they saw a future in Firearms Policy. Brandon Combs, the people over at Firearms Policy Coalition, said, We want to back this show. Second Amendment Foundation. When there might not have been, for the past 3 years, there might not have been a Polite Society podcast without the Second Amendment Foundation. I owe a lot, a whole lot, to Alan Gottlieb and the folks there. You will never, ever, ever hear me say a bad word about them. It's just not in me to do it. And I need to thank my wife, Susan. This one may take me a little bit to get out. I started Polite Society. I went to her and I said, sweetheart, I know times are tough. I want to do this thing. It'll cost us about $20 a month. And yeah, that's what hosting costs. She went ahead and jumped in, and she didn't jump out when she heard what all the equipment was going to cost. As I sit here looking around at tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, most of which I never had to pay for. She has backed me hell and high water. And when I have previously thought about bailing, before Firearms Policy Coalition, before SAF, Susan was there to say, you've got something special, you hang on to it. And I did. And I normally do this at the very end. We'll repeat it here in a second, but I've got to thank everybody who's come on the air and been a co-host with me. Amy Dillon, Dana, who writes up our show notes, Gary, Raquel Okiai, Rachel Malone, Toby and Sticks, Belle McCormick, down in Texas, Kat Stevens, also down in Texas, Tracy Thronberg, Grant up in the Northeast, Charlie Foxtrot, who used to live in the St. Louis area. He now lives down in Florida. Great friend of the show, wrote news and DGUs for us for a long time. John, my friend, who's been with me for a very long time. Amanda, who came along when I thought she never, ever, ever, ever would. She's got way too much on her plate. She's going places, and Amanda came on and has been with me for several years now. Robin Sandoval of A Girl and a Gun. Charlie Cook, who has done way more for me than he will ever know. Carrie Ann, you've been recent to the show, but you've stuck with us. And of course, Rob Morris, who has been with me, the team I have now. Rob Morris has been with me the longest, and is I'm not kidding when I say, when you want to talk to the smartest guy in the room, you talk to Rob Morris. I don't care what room you're in. I was hoping I wouldn't get all emotional. All right, I can't even go look at comments. For those
I'm going to
you
say,
watched,
you're crying, we're crying. That's how this is going, dude.
For those of you live viewers, dude, everybody, you make my life easier by commenting. Thank you for doing that. I cannot get comments in right now. It hurts. Thank you, live viewers. Thank you, podcast listeners. I really hope this isn't the end.
It's not.
That does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. I'd like to thank Tom Knighton for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, Gary, Rachel, Toby, Sticks, Belle, Kat, Tracy, Raquel, Grant, Charlie Foxtrot, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, Carrie Ann, and Rob.
Until the next time.
And yes.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
Be aware.
And we will see you down the road. And we will.
Absolutely. Paul, we love you. Thank you for everything.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right. That hurt. We're not recording anymore. We are still live on the streams. For those of you who may not be familiar, this is my beautiful wife Susan right behind me, who's trying hard to hide. Thank you again, everybody. I'm not going to do a long post show tonight. We got somebody up here. CNT Designs and Arms. I got to get this comment up. Paul, just do a pop-up live when the feeling hits you. No schedule. For the next 6 months or so, I think that's probably what's going to be. I'm not going to promise to be on even one day a week. I'll be on when I have time, when something real. I'll sneak on. I just don't. Yeah,
You froze up.
Yeah.
You'll be on.
All right. Well, I'm gonna shut this down for the live viewers. Thank you, everybody, and thank you everybody who's commented. And I hope to see you next time.